When you are managing a Zoom event, do you have certain frustrations? Are there things that just make it a little bit more complicated than it needs to be? Well, recently I was pleased to discover as a participant about Luma, which is a software you can use that will help you manage your Zoom events. And after giving this a try, I have to say, I am a fan. So that's what we are going to talk about today, is this app or software called Luma for helping to manage your Zoom events. So I'm not talking about during the actual Zoom call. I'm talking about leading up to it and after. So I will explain the things that I found to be headaches when it came to planning and managing events, and why I am sharing about this today, and why this is something that I can see myself definitely using for, well, until something better comes along, we'll see. But it is a really fantastic way to solve some of the headaches that I have experienced. And so I'm going to walk through those and share those with you today. I'll also share my experience as both the participant and the host when it comes to using Luma. By the way, not sponsored. Also, if you are new around here and you don't know who I am, my name is Kat, and I help people to create more professional and engaging online presentations. And this is a bit of a departure because typically I am talking about what you can do in your Zoom calls, but this is actually the before and after. But that's also a really important part. If you are setting up and managing Zoom calls, inviting people as participants, it really helps if you can have some streamlined workflows for doing that thing. So that is what we are going to talk about. And I'm actually going to show a demo. We will set up an event so you can see how Luma works. Also, I am using the free account. So there's a free and a paid account. You can go and look up the pricing differences, but you can do a lot with the free account. But first, I just want to share, when I talk about headaches, what am I actually referring to? So let's go over some of these headaches that I'm talking about. So the first one is multiple time zones. You know, because of Zoom, the amazing thing is we can be meeting with people from all over. Even right now on this live stream, we have people joining from all different time zones. And what can be frustrating is when you are sharing information about an event and you want people to be able to know exactly what time zone. So with this app, people will get the invitation in their own time zone. It'll actually show up in their calendar, which leads me to the next thing. Calendar invites. So when you are planning an event, it is ideal if you can actually have the invite in someone's calendar. You know, we look at our calendars, see what's coming up. So, you know, if we took this as an example, this live stream. So when it comes to joining something, I mean, ideally, I would like you to be able to see it in your calendar, which is why, by the way, I have a link in my description for how you can actually subscribe to a calendar so you can see the upcoming live stream, so you can actually add that to your own calendar. So that's something that I have done because, well, I'd like to have that option that you have a calendar invite in your calendar. Well, you're not actually invited. That aside, when it comes to any event, you want to be in a person's calendar, and this will do that. And one of the things it eliminates is you're not going to have all of your participants see every other guest that is coming, which can sometimes happen when you are inviting people using a traditional calendar invite. All right, what's next? So reminders. You can absolutely pre-plan and pre-write reminders. You can have them scheduled. If you have an email service provider, you can do that, but Luma does it for you. So this is one of those things that it's one less thing you have to think about, is sitting down and remembering to send these event reminders to your participants. The next thing is feedback. There is an option, so you can turn it on or off, to have automatic feedback go out after your event so that people can tell you what they thought. It's another thing that you should be doing as a person hosting events, is asking people what they thought, but it often gets overlooked. And believe me, I have many, many times sort of realized after the event, oh, I really should be asking for feedback. And then if it's too late, people actually are less likely to fill out a feedback form about your event. And finally, attendance. So the example that I used recently as a host was putting out an invitation to all of the students who've taken my training and saying, I'm hosting my monthly live Q&A. Everyone is welcome, but not everyone can actually attend the live event, or maybe someone doesn't feel like they need it that month. So I can never really tell how many people are going to attend. If I just send out an email with the details and the link, that works. I'll show up, but I have no sense of who is intending to come to that meeting. So first of all, you can actually see who has signed up to attend. So that's really helpful. But then on the back end, you can actually see and look and compare. Of the people who said, I'm coming, they opted in, you can actually see who attended. Obviously, you know if you're hosting who's actually there, but you can actually see it in a list form who didn't attend, who was originally said that they were going to attend. So those are some of the things that I really like. I would actually love to hear from you. Do you have any other headaches when it comes to managing your meetings? Is there something you would love software to solve? Let me know if you are live here in the chat, or if you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments. What's one of your headaches when it comes to managing Zoom meetings? So I'm going to show a demo, and we're going to set up a fake event, and let's dive into Luma. Let's get into this app. So it is a web-based app. I am signed in right now, and you can actually see I'm on the events tab. So Luma does a few things. It does the events. It also has an option for you to send newsletters. So it acts kind of like an email service provider, although I have not looked into it. I do not know. We're not going to talk about that today. They do have an option for a store. You can see your stats, your settings, your audience, so people you've engaged with, but we're going to focus on the events. And we can go and see past events, and we have our upcoming events. So I just put one in here so you could see an example of just what an event might look like when it's already scheduled, and you can just click on manage and manage that event. But we are actually going to create an event right now. So let's make one. So what happens is you now have this event page where you can just start building your event. And they've got an example here of morning yoga, but let's say that I want to do a workshop on, let's do public speaking skills. So imagine that I am hosting an event on public speaking skills. Now I can have a nice cover photo, so I can either create my own. So for my recent Q&A, I actually made one using Canva and then uploaded that. But the other option you have is, so I've got my image here. You can also though just use some of the existing ones. So I don't want a solid color. Do they have anything about speaking? Not really. Let's just let's just pick the library because I did not prepare an image for today's demo. So books, public speaking, totally go hand in hand. All right, where is this event taking place? And this is where you can actually start to, so there are a few different places you can have this. You can use this for in-person events. It doesn't have to be Zoom. But what you can do is integrate this with your Zoom account. So if you give Zoom permission to allow Luma to integrate with the app, then you can actually create a new one. So if I just put in information right now, it will actually go into Zoom and put a new meeting into my Zoom account, which is a great option. You can just go right into here. The alternative, let's say you have actually set up a Zoom meeting, you can actually choose your Zoom meeting that you've already built inside of Zoom. So that's an option you can do, or you can enter your information manually. So maybe you don't necessarily want the integration. I personally integrated it. I want that seamless ability, and I do have a few things that are integrated with Zoom. So now you can say, when will this actually happen? So let's actually choose a time. So I'm going to say that maybe it's next Friday, and you can set your duration. So is it 30 minutes, is it an hour? So maybe this is actually a 90-minute session. And here's the other thing that, hat tip to Homesick Mac, let me know about having series. So maybe, public speaking skills, that takes a little bit of time, and it's always nice when you can practice. So maybe I want this to actually be a multi-session event. So I can just toggle multi-session event, and then I can actually pick the different sessions that will happen. So the first one is August 13th, the Friday, and let's say that this is at 12 p.m. And then maybe I want to do one the next day, kind of get it all done in one weekend, and I can continue to add sessions. Now mine are in Eastern Eastern, because that's where I am. But as you can see, guests will see it in their time zone, which to me is a really big benefit and one of the main things that has drawn me to this. When it comes to time zones, I have tried different things. I know that there is an event date sort of website where you can enter the time and the day. You can send that as a link so people can see it in their own time zone. But I really like this option. Now here, who has access? You have a couple of options. And let me see if I can make this a little bigger for you. Yeah, that's a bit better. Okay, zoomed in. So who has access? You can require registration. So the only way someone is going to get the meeting details is if they actually register. So they commit to coming, they enter their email, and then it goes to their calendar and they are actually registered. You can uncheck this. I chose to use this to have the registration so that I could kind of track everybody and just make sure that only the people who said they're coming are the ones who are getting the information. You can also require approval. So this would mean people actually have to be approved by me, meaning I have to go in and look at who said they're attending. So if you have, maybe you need a little bit more control on your event, maybe you actually have a select group and you want to make sure only those people, so someone else hasn't shared the link out to other people, and that you, or maybe maybe for this public speaking skills workshop, I actually have an application form so people can tell me their intention and I can actually get a little bit of information and I can approve which people will actually get the details. So I don't want just any old person coming and spamming this event. And then I can actually create the event. So let's create that event. And hey, Patrick, thanks for joining. And Peter, I see you're here too. And Instructor Matt, thank you. And Homesick Mac with my impromptu start. Okay, so now we've got the back end, and this is where we can start to customize things. So this is really helpful. So in here, we've got this event created. So if I go into my Zoom, you'll just have to believe me that the event has now been created in my Zoom account. And here is where you're going to actually see so the guest information will be on this page. So if I send this out to people, I will see who has actually registered for this guest. And it looks here like I can also invite guests directly using this, but I would just share the event link. And you can also go up here, just copy it to your clipboard. I will be deleting this, so don't go there. And so we will see the guest list will show up and you have some options here. So you can stop registration. So maybe it's filled up, or maybe you've hit a certain date where you just need to start preparing and you don't want any more people registering. You can also toggle this, notify me as people register. I did try this. I liked having that for the very first event that I was running because I could actually get a sense of which of my students were planning to attend the monthly live Q&A. You can set a capacity if you do have a limit, and you can also show your guest list to other guests. So there's certain situations where you may like that, others where you may not. So here we are going to, here we're going to go into edit event. This is where you can just go back in and change some things. And here we see for event details, it says guests can register for the full series or sessions. So I could change this because maybe for this public speaking skills, I don't want you only going to one. I want you going to only the full series. But maybe you're offering a series where you just want someone to go to only one session. So you can change how that works. For this case, I would want the full series, but as you see, maybe someone can go to the whole series or just some of the series. That can be an option that you can set up here. And you can set the default time zone, add your description, who has access. I'm actually going to toggle this in case anyone gets any funny ideas while we're doing this live demonstration. So I've gone in and changed the event. So let's go into emails. And so emails, we have 3 that are the default, meaning every time you set an event, it's going to automatically set up reminders. And so you can see all sessions, you can see individual sessions. So these are the reminders for the 2 different things. So let's take a look at the first event, which starts at noon. So I'm going to have a reminder that goes out to everyone who's approved for the event because I turned on that approval just now. And they will get a reminder email 1 hour before and then 5 minutes before to let people know that we're going live. Personally, as a student, I really appreciated these because even if it's in my calendar, sometimes you're at work, sometimes you're doing something, and then you do see the email come in. It's like, oh yes, I do have that. And then post-event feedback. So this is the automatic feedback that they have. Now, when I was testing this out and got the feedback, I had decided to toggle this off. It depends on the type of event you're hosting. And a great event, and when I was talking to Mac about this, we were saying how depends if you're having recurring events with people, they might not want to necessarily give feedback after every single one. Maybe you actually have a custom survey. So if I were actually running a public speaking skills workshop, I would probably have a custom form that I would send to everyone right at the end of the second day if I was prepared in advance. So I would have specific questions, not just the generic one. So if we take a look at the feedback, it's actually using emojis to rate what they think of it. And they can include a message. But if you are running a more, you may want to ask more questions. And so in that case, what you can do, so you can say, I actually don't want this email. So you can actually just say delete, okay. And then now I just have the reminder emails, but you can add an email. So if we click add, do you want to add another reminder, or do you just want to add the feedback back? So it's not quite as customizable as perhaps you might like. If you have your own email service, you could go in and really customize other emails, but that does take that extra work. But as far as reminding people, that's there. So let's take a look. This is the email they get 1 hour before. So the subject says it's starting in an hour, and then it just has a reminder. But you can include a personal message if you want to your students, and they can see the event page and get the information, and you can change when it actually gets sent. And I'm just looking over, I see a couple of emails. So Homesick Mac here, let's see if we can see this on the screen. So when we let participants choose one off or all, then each partial event they sign up for need to be approved. With 25 plus people, this can be time consuming. Yeah, that's a really good point for the approval. I think it really depends on the event and who it's going to. I mean, for my example, if I'm only sending this to a list of people who I already know, every single one of them is welcome, I'm not going to have approval on. I just did that today to protect myself because I'm doing a live demonstration. Okay, so series versus sessions. So my understanding would be if I have, so let's go back up to the event. If we take a look, so the whole series would be every single thing. So in this case, I have 2, but maybe I'm doing 6 weeks of workshops, and that if the full series would mean if I sign up, I am attending all 6. So you're getting an invitation to all 6 of those events. But if I'm having 6 workshops, but someone only wants to attend 1 or maybe 2, they can just pick and choose which ones they want, then that's where that would be called a session. So each individual session or the whole series or a combination of the 2. So those are the emails and the reminder. And it looks like also you could just send an email to everyone. So everyone who has subscribed for the series, I could just actually go in here and I can toggle on who's going to get that email and just send that. So, and the guests will not see everyone's emails. And you can go in individually and change this. So as you see, if you have a big series, that is something that you are going to have to toggle on each individual one if you want to make changes and if you want to actually have that be a little bit more customized. Questions. So when a guest registers, it will always collect their email and their name, but then you can actually add questions. So if we click on this for this demo event, we can see, is it a text, checkbox, single select, or long text? So maybe I want to have a little, let's try this. I understand I must have a camera and mic to participate. So this could be an example in the workshop. So I might have something like that. Let's see how that works. So I have that question. And then I could add a second question, like single select. Okay, so you get the idea here. I'm actually going to delete the second one if I say update questions. Okay, so now I have that people will understand that they must have this. So you can customize that so that when someone is registering, they will see that. The next thing we have on this menu is payment. So there is an option for payment, and this is where if you are considering using Luma and you want to look at the difference, if you are using the free account, you can collect payment. They'll just take a little bit off the top. If you have a paid account, then they waive those fees. Your credit card, though, Stripe still has its own fees. So this is an example where if you really have small scale and the amount, that's where you always do the math, right? Where they're going to take a little off the top, but is it less than paying for their monthly fee to sign up for the paid plan? So you can do a lot with the free plan, but if you are taking payment for an event, that is where you would need to have, you would want to do that math and think about that. Now, in the example where I was a student, so I'm just going to go back to my main camera. So the instances where I was a student and my hosts or the teachers of my class were using Luma, I actually paid them separately. So I registered for the class and then we were sent out session invitations. Now, in some cases, all of the main sessions we knew about, but it was any bonus sessions. So if they had a Q&A that was extra or a guest speaker come on, that's where we would get a Luma invitation and we would opt in. So they know which of the students in the class want to go to this guest speaker. And then we also get all of the updates. So there was never really payment involved because I had already enrolled and paid in the class up front. So this is sort of an addendum, the way they used it, but you could just use this as your software to collect a fee if you are running a paid event. Now, I was talking with Homesick Mac and a few other people actually who've used Luma. Let's say that you want to have an event and then you want to have the option to tip, or if someone would like to send money that they can choose their amount. You could, so I won't get into tipping I won't get into that today. Oh, I just hit my mic. But you could use another alternative so send out a link to everyone saying, if you'd like to, you can use this. So something like Buy Me a Coffee, or if you have another system that can take payments where people can self-select how much money they'd like to give, because that is a thing. Sometimes we'll have an event where people get to choose how much they would like to contribute to the event if they are able to contribute. Let me know if you have any questions about that. And also hi to Vic from Inverness. I love Scotland. I have some family. My grandpa was from Scotland. Okay. That's a random aside. Let's go back. So Insights, this is where you can take a look at your page views so you can see which people are looking at it. You can see other referrals. So if somebody has registered and shared that with someone else, and then your event summary. So after the event, I'd be able to go and look at the attendance, so how many people actually joined, and then also the feedback if you have the feedback turned on. Obviously, I don't have any information because I haven't hosted this event. And let's click on more. Full disclosure, discovering this along with you. So we have videos. You can embed this event on your site. So let's click on these. So you can add a video recording to your page. You can embed event access. So yeah, you can have unlisted events so people won't find it. So checking this off as unlisted and then cancel event. So this is really what everything looks like here. So let's take a look. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to open a new tab. So now you can see the actual page. So this is my event. I am signed in. So it's not exactly what it'll look like. I could go in an incognito, but you can see this is what they'll see. They've got that cover photo, which I do recommend that you customize it and make it look like everything here. You've got the time and then the registration. So here you can see, because I set it, so you have to go for the full series, they can see the timeline for both of these events. And up here, you can see the time. And then you can see my little checkbox here. I understand I must have a camera and mic, and so I have to check that off. I wonder if I have to. I don't know, because I haven't tested enough. But I have, my use of Luma is enough that it has helped me with some of those headaches that I mentioned earlier. Being in someone's calendar, I think, is really helpful. But but also as the host, knowing how many people you might expect. Obviously, people often sign up and then they can no longer come at the last minute, but it gives you a sense, especially if you know typically how many people might not show up. You would then be able to see, okay, if typically I have maybe 50% or 40% of people who say they're coming actually come, you'll be able to estimate a little bit better what to expect. Now, if it's paid, that's probably a little bit higher versus a free one. But this is the type of tool that as part of your workflow, it can just take care of a few of the things so you don't have to do them. I mean, you could do a version of this with something like Zapier or another integration between your Zoom, maybe your email service provider. But I really like the fact that I can go in, set up an event. It sets it up here and in Zoom, so I'm not duplicating that. Send that out to people and they opt in. My reminders are set. Everything's good to go. And even the default reminder is decent. So you don't have to go in and customize everything. Obviously you can, but if you are looking to save time and to manage your events, I think this is a really nice option. And yes, as a reminder, not sponsored, and I am using the free account and I have been really pleased with it. So are there any questions about this? Obviously, I am newer to it. One of the things that I will say though is I appreciated it as a participant. I liked the ability to not only choose what my intention was, so saying, yes, I plan to attend this and click on that button and just easily register. So once I did, it was simple. And if you register with the same email, you will actually see, so maybe 4 people are hosting events and they're using Luma. I will actually see all of the upcoming events that I have coming up that I've registered both as the host and as a participant with that email address. So I can also see all of that at a glance and see all of the upcoming ones. I see Matt is saying here, this looks really interesting. I might try using it with one of my classes this fall and see what students think. Yeah. Well, with classes, do they already have those in their calendar, I guess? Yeah, let me know what you think and if you use that. So I hope that was helpful and that it addresses some things. I would love to hear from you if there are other things. What are the problems you would love to have solved that would make it easier for you to be managing your Zoom events so then you can focus on what matters, which is to host a more professional and engaging online presentation.